Hello, my YouTube friends. Happy Monday. I hope everybody's doing well. Today, I'm going to talk about four stocks that I think are a must own for any investment portfolio. I think they're such big powerhouses that if you're going to be investing, you just have to have them. So, stick around. It should be really interesting. I'm not even sure I'm going to hit pause. I say stick around out of habit. But it's hard for me to imagine having a portfolio and not including these four companies. I even have a fifth one that I kind of think you should include. I'll ramble off the four right now, which is Amazon, Meta, Google, and Microsoft. I know everybody knows them. I know they're part of the Magnificent Seven, but they were even talking on CNBC today about the percentage of growth on the Mag 7 versus the rest of the S&P 500. And if I remember correctly, I think they said that the Magnificent Seven is growing at 28% year over year, while the rest of the S&P 500 is growing at 4%. Even during a slowdown, I think these companies have such a big advantage over everybody else. They're going to continue to grow while everybody else struggles to keep up. I'll go into the reasons why, I'll explain it, and then for the rest of the day, I do have a bit of a concern about the revision on the jobless claims or the unemployment report. It does show that we're slowing down significantly. I think the Fed is going to start cutting rates, but I don't know how much that's going to really impact the economy, and it's not going to do anything short term. It takes a while for that stuff to start spreading through things. Now, I know one of you also asked me to do a review of my dividend account, which I will do. I just wanted to say in advance of that. Now, I'm not going to do it today, but we'll get into it over maybe tomorrow or the next day or something. The only reason I reviewed the set it and forget it account is really nothing changes in that account. I generally leave it alone. It's a good amalgam. That's not really the word I'm thinking of, but it gives you a good idea of where I'm invested and where I leave things. And when I'm giving advice, I really think it's like buy low, sell never. Not even buy low, sell high. I think you buy really good companies when they're out of favor. You hope that whatever's going on isn't something that destroys them or puts them out of business. To be fair, like what is it? Walgreens has really struggled. There's some others like that. Intel's really struggled, and there's some overlying issues that cause concern in those that maybe they don't survive. At the same time, when things are really bad, I think that creates an opportunity where companies are discounted. I actually picked up a little Amazon on Friday and a tiny bit more. I tend to buy really little increments so that I continue to do it in case the market continues to go lower on companies. For me, that works. Now, I'm going to say it now just because I'm saying for me that works. This is not financial advice. You guys need to do your own research. Please, this is just entertainment purposes only, and you need to reach out to your financial advisor to make any financial decisions for your portfolios. I don't really envision any big calamity for our economy, but I think things are going to slow a bit. People are still working overall, even with the revisions. Salaries aren't keeping up with inflation, so I do think people are stretched. At the same time, having a job is having a job, and you just adjust to your income accordingly. Maybe it means you go out to dinner a little bit less, maybe you buy a few things less, or whatever it is that's actually slowing the economy, which is what the Fed wanted to do. It's possible it happens faster than they expect, and it's just hard to tell. Like when I look at housing now, keep in mind it's a little bit. We know the areas we live in, and Vegas has a lot of Vegas specific things that are causing the area to continue to grow. We have an influx of people moving from California to consistent basis. This has been going on for years, and I think that continues because we're not that far away. When they visit, they get a lot for their money, and it's not that bad a town. And as it's continuing to grow, there's more to do. Creates a really good opportunity for somebody who's struggling there with the higher taxes and higher costs coming here and seeing how much they get for their money. And people are hard on Vegas, but I got to tell you, we've been here since 2005 and we really love it. It's a good place to live. It gets a bad reputation for things like the schools, but when you do the research and dig into it, there's actually a lot of really good schools. You just have to actually do some research and work into it. And I don't mean just the private schools, there's good opportunity with some of the public as well. Now, Real estate overall is harder for me to tell because I only live where I live. There is more inventory coming to the market, which should slow it down, along with everything else in the economy. But same thing, I don't see any big crash coming. I just see things kind of petering out and staying stagnant. You still have a lot of people who have 3%, even sub 3% mortgage rates. Maybe they're at the 4% range, but they're really aggressively low. And then they got into the houses when the prices were much cheaper as well. So there's no panic to get out. The other thing is people are well qualified and we don't have the option arm loans that people were getting back in 2004, 5, and 6 that helped create the correction in 2007, 8, and 9. I can go into that. I've talked about it in other videos, but the option arm was this loan that once it's seasoned, your payments change significantly. You added that to when the market started to correct and people had these higher payments with lower valued houses, it really changes the dynamic versus now when they're locked in with these low payments and a lot of equity in the home. I just don't see it crashing the same way because you're not going to have a ton of people panicking to get out. Now let's talk about the four stocks that I mentioned. And I'm going to start with Google because it's the most interesting to me in a lot of ways because it's so undervalued right now based on what it's done over the past 10 years or so. And the fact that it got so undervalued because ChatGPT and the comment that the search is going to drop dramatically, and we haven't seen that happen. Maybe that will happen going forward, but it's hard to tell. And every time the CEO talks, he's saying it doesn't seem to be happening, and he doesn't really see it happening. You also uh, attach the fact that they have their own AI, which is causing more people to continue to use their search, which is why it's growing, and it's growing at over a 10% increase year over year. So while everybody's saying how it's going to slow and correct, in the meantime, it's been doing the opposite, continuing to grow. And you add their AI to it, and they're continuing to grow the market share. Maybe they just continue to grow and everybody's wrong about it. I try not to predict the future because I find that's really hard to do and just go with what's going on now. Now, their agreement with Apple is in question, so maybe the iPhone and searching on Google will slow down. Maybe Apple will push it to use their own system a little bit more. But Google's their moat is really good despite all the naysayers. You then add to it, excuse me, and there's my wife back there. You then and father-in-law. You then add to it that they've got YouTube and their web services are growing as to compete with Amazon, and they've got all these other things, including their autonomous driving system that's growing extremely fast. I mean, I think they could end up outpacing Tesla, and even though they don't have the cars, I'm guessing they have the pockets to be able to compete in that space. And that's really the reason that I think these four stocks are so important to have as we get into that AI race, they have such a powerful position with all the cash they have coming in to be able to spend more than anybody else, to be able to grow that end of things. It's really amazing to think. I was discussing this with my brother about it's very hard for the biggest companies to be able to grow faster than everybody else. But here's what's changed over the past 30 years. If you were Home Depot, for example, and you were going through growth, well, you had to invest in more space to have more stores to do better sales. These new companies don't have to do it the same way. So even though they're spending a lot of money on AI and to grow, they don't have to build more space and take on more rents and take on more employees or other things. It's up in the cloud to make them more competitive to be able to grow the companies, which I think gives them such a huge advantage to grow at a faster pace than the previous companies, and they don't take on long term expenses. The hope is that they spend over the next however many years, I'm not even going to guess how many, to be able to grow the earnings, and then they'll be able to cut off the spending to really, catapult their profits into the stratosphere. I think these companies just continue to grow, and I think those four that I mentioned are the best positioned to be able to be the top leaders in these fields. Now, I guess we'll see going forward. And half of me thinks, why do you even invest in anybody else? Because it's going to be so hard for them to compete. And these guys continue to gobble up more market share as they grow. Even Amazon, so I'll talk about them next. Their retail end of things. Like, how do you compete with that? I order things on Amazon, it's here the next day. And I've gotten so accustomed to that, it's really rare that I need something today. It's incredibly efficient. They're great with returns. And then you have the Amazon Web Services. They've got the autonomous driving, even though they're kind of, drifting away from it. And then they have Prime that competes with, whether it's Netflix, but I still kick them for not competing on a better level because I think with their pockets being so deep, they really could try to get into that space. When you look at how big Netflix is, if you're Amazon, I don't know how you don't push the envelope to try to do a real business in that space. But they've got so many other things. The Amazon Web Services is growing super fast. And I mentioned this in another video. I don't know that, like, I think people understand it about Amazon. They're not the actual seller. But, with Walmart and Target too, well, Target in the future, like Walmart may or may not be the company selling you the goods. It might be some person. They have to incorporate, they can't just sell it out of their house. But they use the storefront, and it's the same how Amazon works, and these others are beginning to copy. But Amazon's so far ahead and their system is so good, I think it just continues to grow. And as they start to use AI to advertise and target the marketing, uh, I think a lot of people look at that stuff negatively. It actually means you'll only get advertisements of things that you potentially want. The negative is you only get the things you want, so you don't start to see other things and maybe potentially find things that you didn't even think of. Which brings me to Meta, who's been the strongest at using the AI to grow this type of advertising. I'm guessing what their algorithm does is they have 3 billion people who go on their sites daily. Well, if they've got a good algorithm that pays attention to what you're looking at, who you're talking to, what you're talking about, they're able to use that for the advertisers to directly pinpoint you to be able to advertise the things that they know you're looking for. That probably increases sales and helps them do really well. So the advertisers are going to be thrilled. And in time, if they get better and better at that, another one that'll just get more and more market share because people will just go to their company to be able to use their services for advertising. The other thing that nobody even thinks about is, WhatsApp. We just got back from Asia, and WeChat, which is very similar to WhatsApp, really encompasses Amazon, Uber, um, Apple Pay, like all of these things under one umbrella. I think that's Mark Zuckerberg's goal with WhatsApp. Hasn't happened here. I think it may be a little bit different because we do have the separated companies. But if he's able to accomplish that, he's going to take something that's not even something that they monetized yet to being a huge monetization because the Alipay and WeChat and Asia, like that's all you use. I didn't even leave with a wallet. I would put the wallet in the safe in the hotel room, and the only thing I would take when I went out was my phone because you didn't need anything else. Even if you went to, like, they have these small stalls that in a lot of other countries just accept cash because they don't even want credit card payments. Well, when you're in like China and even in South Korea a bit, all they accept is WeChat, WeChat, sorry, and Alipay. I saw somebody on the street, and it was really the only person because they don't have a lot of homeless who was looking for money, and even they had a little QR code that's how they would get money if you wanted to give to them. I mean, it floors me that they're really becoming cashless. You use it for the subways and the buses, and whether you want to order things delivered to the house, and whether you want to get the equivalent of Uber. If I saw it correctly, Uber actually partnered with one of them that Uber isn't really there quite the same way. You go onto their site, but they're using their technology for a percentage of the profits. Amazing apps that really cover a whole lot of things. And the other one with Meta that I talked about years ago, but I'm not sure if it's a bust or they'll be able to make it be what I'm sure his vision for it was, is the Oculus in the metaverse. I have to imagine what he saw with this is really the ability to do everything on an Oculus, whether it's going to school or going to a sporting event from the comfort of your home, to playing games and people actually having fun building their houses and almost living in a chair in the metaverse. What I mean by that is that imagine a scenario where the Super Bowl's coming around. Now, I'm not going to spend $5,000 or $10,000 to go to the Super Bowl. But if I can go on the Oculus, and they could even have different prices depending on what your view is, and maybe you're buying cheap seats for $20 or $30 because they'll be able to sit millions of people at the game instead of, I don't know, 50,000 people in a stadium or whatever the number is. And you pay $100 to sit at the 50-yard line or whatever the dollar amounts are, and then you're actually at the game. Because anybody who's been on an Oculus or one of these other things, and you see the 3D is really amazing. So maybe in the future you're able to put on an Oculus and go to the Super Bowl or go to a basketball game or a baseball game or the theater or whatever it is that you love, and actually feel like you're there for a much lower price and avoid parking and driving and traffic and people and whatever else. And then, just like the game, advertisers could go on and Domino's could sell you a pizza at the halftime. You could do it in advance. Some guy could be coming around going peanuts and beer and hot dogs, almost like you're really there. And if you use your finger and you press a button, it'll be at your house in 15, 20 minutes, depending on how sophisticated they get. I even envision the potential that you could go to school there. I mean, how about going to a classroom from the comfort of your house and having some of the best teachers, because there's an infinite amount of students who can go to the class. You could use less teachers, they can work deals with the state. And then imagine you wanted to go on vacation or go swim in the ocean like you feel like you're in a scuba, or go to an amusement park. And it could be the greatest amusement park ever that doesn't even really exist. Maybe it only costs $2 to go for the day. All sorts of things that I'm sure is what he envisioned with the Oculus. Again, I don't know if it's just a big bust and it won't turn into anything, but it's like this free option, so to speak, that if it becomes anything, it could have a huge return on it. And then the last one that I mentioned of the four, and the extra one that I kind of think maybe is also Apple. But I really think if you're going to invest, not having these four is a huge mistake, because I think they're going to gobble up a lot of the other competition. And the last one, Microsoft, I mean, my God, how do we live without Microsoft? Between Microsoft Word and all the docs and anything anybody sends you, you pretty much have to have it on your computer for anything to work properly and be able to open up files. So almost any business has to be enmeshed in Microsoft's world. They have so many things going on. They're almost like a tech ETF on their own. Um, they have the cloud. They have other services as well. Um, and even I think they could eat into like Adobe's business in time and be able to help people with artwork and drawings and advertising. I just think these companies are so big and continuing to grow, and their pockets are so deep. The money that comes in is so big. Instead of using that to be able to do dividend payments or anything else, they just continue to grow their businesses. Now, me as somebody who really likes dividends, I get it. I kind of wish that they would push some of that money out to the investors, but they still get such good return on investment. It makes sense that they don't, and they just propel themselves ahead of everybody else. It also shows their confidence of what they're investing in and that they see the visions and that they're able to grow these companies. I think it's really changed the dynamics of I don't want to call them monopolies, but they're just growing so fast. It really just pushes them and pushes them and pushes them, where the biggest companies can grow at a pace that in the past, a huge company just couldn't grow that quickly because they couldn't increase sales. Because what were they going to do to add to the volume of their profits? These guys just spend on AI to gain more market share, and they don't need more building space, they don't need more employees, they don't need more cars and this and that the way that it used to be. You know, Microsoft could just get more and more of the market going more and more worldwide, and then you actually need them more. And if they raise their price just a little bit, nobody can make any change because you need that product. Not sure what you guys think. Like, let me know. Do you agree? Do you see these companies just continuing to grow and outpace everybody? Uh, I almost think we need to put regulations on them, but I'm not really sure about what. And if somebody's going to be the best in these fields, like since I'm American, I would rather it be American companies. So I don't really want to put restrictions on them and rein them in. I want them to grow. I just worry about an economy that in 20 years has 10 companies that own 90% of the market share of all businesses and everybody else struggling. I mean, I almost see it happening in the company world the same way it happens in the person person world, where the rich are getting richer and those without are getting further and further spread apart. I think that we're kind of see that happening in the corporate world, and I think that's why it's so important to own these companies. I get that they may be a little overvalued or stretched, so it's hard to buy them, but I almost think you blindly have to put in 20 or 25% of what you'd want to have in them and just kind of have something in them, because if they continue to outpace, it would be a shame not to include them in your portfolio. I'm also going to cut things a little bit short. I do have more to talk about, but I do want to see Palantir's earnings out of curiosity. I don't own Palantir, but I still think it'll impact the market pretty good, whatever comes out, or if anything that pushes their stock around. And then on personal reasons, HIMS is going to report today as well. I mean, others are also. And I have a position in HIMS in my trading account, so I want to keep an eye on that. Not that I'm really going to do anything, but I do like to watch and listen to the announcements afterwards, and the CEOs come on and chat about it. So I want to have some time to upload or do the editing, upload the video, get it onto YouTube, and then still have time to see the earnings reports. Anyway, again, have a great Monday. Do me a favor if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, smash the like button, comment in the comment sections. I think I really hurt the views by going out of town and not doing much because they've slowed down a bunch. I'm mimicking the channel on another one that I just started out of curiosity. No subscribers yet, but I'm still curious how it ends up doing. For now, I'm just posting the same exact content. Um, and I kind of like having a small group of people who I kind of know their names. It's nice to see you guys pop up when you make the comments or when you check in. It's kind of cool. I mean, and full disclosure, like, my goal is not really to grow the channel. When I first started, I kind of had those aspirations, and I think that's why I built up the subscriber base. So I was really pushing on some level, and I was trying to learn about the not the editing, but the what's it called? I get these brain farts. I guess that's what happens when you're getting old. But essentially, that like tries to push the views and using words and this and that to push everything on the algorithms. And I just enjoy doing this for me, which is also why it's kind of nice that it's a small community, because I feel like I get to know some of you, and I see you and other people, like when they do their lives or whatever it is. I see some of you chatting, and I get to say hello. So it's cool that I feel like I get to know some of the people. I guess if the channel really grows, I'll know you guys that say hello from time to time. But I see what happens on some of the ones I watch, where they get so overwhelmed when they've really grown that they don't even respond to people anymore because they just don't have the time. I don't really think I want the channel to grow into that. I kind of like that I have this little community of people I chat with. Anyway, I'm just blabbing at this point. Let me go do the editing, get some stuff done. Have a great Monday, and I'll talk to you guys soon.